All right, it's Dean Delray on Let There Be Talk. On today's episode, I'm usually at Beechwood Canyon, but today I'm in La Canada. Or if you looked at it, it looks like La Canada.
It's Cañada.
La Cañada.
Spanish.
But it looks like Canada.
Yeah, it's the Canada.
Yeah, the Canada. My guest today, I'm fired up about this. Bill D'Elia, right? Father of Chris D'Elia. Actor and comedian on Whitney, and Matt D'Elia, movie director, both my great friends. But you're the king of the family, right?
Well, I guess the patriarch, I suppose. There was no... I'm the despot. I'm the king.
Yeah, man,
Yo soy el rey. That's what Picasso said.
Yeah, there you go.
I am the king.
You are the king. It's hilarious because first of all, if you tune in, the reason I want to have you on is I like to have people on that work hard, or because I hate people that get in through the back door on anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no back door here.
Yeah. So you're a huge TV producer, right?
Okay, huge.
Yeah, if you do one show in Hollywood, that's big. If you do multiple shows and they're on a long time, that's big.
Yeah, I've done a lot. I prefer to be called a director because that's how the producing started for me. That's how I got into producing. I never started out never even had an inkling to want to produce anything, but I became popular as a television director, and people who were making the shows wanted me to stick around because they liked my style, and then I wound up producing because it became a lot more fun. In television, the power is mainly with the writer, and over the course of the last 20 years that I've been involved in television, there's been this development where the writer partners with a director, and together they produce the show. And that's been you. Your part. What's happened to me is I've directed lots of television shows, and I've now directed and produced quite a bunch.
And your partner is?
Well, David Kelly.
Yeah.
David E. Kelly. He's created some of the best shows on TV, and what's happened is I started to direct for him back on Picket Fences.
Right.
And then his next show was Chicago Hope, and he asked me to come in and stay on Chicago Hope and run it with a guy named John Tinker. John and I ran Chicago Hope, and David left it. And that was really that show really put me on the map. Chicago Hope was nominated for Emmys every year. I got my first Emmy nominations through Chicago Hope. And then after Chicago Hope, it was Ally McBeal with David. And ever since Ally McBeal, I've been doing shows pretty much with David Kelly.
Yeah, so it's like Chicago Hope, Ally McBeal.
Then it was Boston Legal.
Boston Legal. Yeah.
Boston Legal, Harry's Law, and now we're doing a show called Monday Mornings, which is based on a novel by Dr. Sanjay Gupta, which is a medical drama, and it's for TNT, and it'll be on the air in February of next year.
And what's this one about?
This one's a medical drama. It's way cool. It may be the coolest show I've done. I thought Boston Legal was pretty hip in its way, but this is a medical drama that, we've all seen medical shows on TV. They are what they are. Here comes the guy. He's broken. How do you fix him? Oh, my God, the doctor's a genius, or he's fucked up. Or
like ER, the formula forever.
What do we do? And then, we did it or we didn't do it. That's a medical show.
Yep.
What this one does is kind of explores what goes on to be a doctor. And there's a thing in all hospitals called an M&M conference. It's a mortality and morbidity conference where the doctors behind closed doors sit around and talk about what happened and why it happened and how they made the decisions and why they made the decisions. It's an intricate medical show in that even if you're watching the show and you see somebody solve something, you'll find out later what really went on behind the scenes and what he could have done and what he should have done. And it's got a great cast. Alfred Molina, Ving Rhames.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
Yeah, Jamie Bamber, Jennifer Finnegan, Sarah Urau, Bill Irwin, Emily Swallow. It's a great group of people. It's a very hip-looking look at behind the scenes of what goes on in the hospital.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Now, how did you even get into TV? Because I'm over here at your house, and I've never even been here, which is amazing. But I see that, okay, did you grow up in New York City or Jersey?
Yeah, I grew up in New York.
And your dad had a newsstand for 50 years?
Yeah.
And what was the street on?
My dad had a newsstand on the corner of 33rd Street and 7th Avenue. And he was on that corner for 50 years. That's exactly right. He started out as one of those newsboys, just standing there with a satchel and a bunch of papers.
He's the guy, paper here.
Read all about it, extra.
Paper.
Yeah, not even extra. It was extra. Read all about it. And he just became a permanent fixture on that corner, West 33rd and 7th, northwest corner, just across the street from Penn Station. And he wound up with one of those little boxes where he sold
How do you get those boxes? You just build it one day?
It's licensed.
Got you.
It's licensed by the state of New York. You put yourself on a list, and he wound up on that corner for literally 50 years.
Do you make money doing that?
Yeah, he hustled. When I was a kid, he drove a truck as well. He was just, I come from a real blue collar background.
What neighborhood did you grow up in?
I actually grew up in Queens. Hang on a second. Let me kick my dog out the door. I actually grew up
in Queens.
I grew up in Queens, just outside of Manhattan. And
wow.
He used to take a bus and a train to work every day. And then then my mom often would pick him up at the end of the night, pick him up at the train station, drive him home. When we became old enough, my brother and I would go pick him up. And then when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, maybe 9, starting at 9, he would take me to work with him. I'd sit in that newsstand, and I'm telling you, Dean, I learned more about what goes on with people and how to deal with people.
Yeah.
And I learned more about directing on that corner than any film school, any other experience I've ever had, because you'd stand there on that corner and you'd have to deal with whoever came up. And there were times where he would just walk away and leave me alone. And I'd have to deal with these New York City lunatics coming out.
Wow.
And I always say, if you've been to New York, you've been in those boxes and you know it. You've seen those boxes, and that's the people in them. Back then, it was mainly Italian Americans that had those kind of jobs. And I would sit in that box, and to me, that opening was like a movie screen. It was like a movie screen.
Absolutely.
And I would sit in there and look out, and I'd make up my own stories in my head about what was going on. And it was the beginning of me thinking visually and dealing with people.
And so, how do you go from there to start like TV and stuff? You went to school for it, right?
Yeah. Well, I discovered theater in high school. That's kind of how it started.
You were acting?
I had a real desire to act and be in all the school plays, and that was a source of no little tension in my house. By the way, my dad being this big blue collar, men do this, women do that. The arts were something that men just didn't do. It was
kind of gay, right?
Yeah, and it was just like, he was totally against me ever being involved in any kind of theatrical production, and I couldn't not do it. And he was a very tough and very judgmental guy, and it was just like, you can't, no. And then I would try out for the play. I would get the part. I took the drama classes, and he'd be the first guy sitting in the audience, like, crying at like how proud he was. What
about James Dean and guys like that, like Brandon? Because that stuff was hot back then.
But that's just not what men did. That's okay. There are men that make movies. There's Brando. There's those guys, but that's not a job. A real job, like with some
plumber,
and from where I sat and the way I grew up, it's like, what's security? I don't even know what that is. I know guys that had jobs and got fired, had jobs and didn't make any money, had jobs, and yet my dad's own advice to me was, find something that you think you're good at, something you love, and here's what'll happen. If you're lucky, you'll be happy. And if you'll find a job that does what you like, and you'll be happy. If you're really lucky, you'll be happy and you'll make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so I just followed I followed his advice to me and followed my own star with that. And it got me into the school plays and all that stuff. So then in high school, looking for looking at college applications and where should I go, what should I study, what am I good at, what could I do. And it's kind of hard to even imagine, but it was like the dark ages. Now you're a click away from finding anything you want to find out about schools or business or anything. Back then it was all it was called Barron's book. It was a big book of colleges, and you just sit down and you'd flip through it and try to figure out what are these colleges all about. And I discovered that you could actually study television and radio and film. I
saw that online. You went to Ithaca or something?
Yeah. And I thought, geez, you could actually go to school for this shit? I didn't know that. And I applied to a couple of schools and got into them. But Ithaca just seemed like a cool place. Now, I'm of the generation of guys who really were the first to kind of discover this, to go through what became film school. I'm kind of the same.
Like they didn't have NYU film school back then?
Yeah, but it was not a thing. It wasn't a big deal like it is now. Now they're turning people away. Then it was like, do you want to do this?
Yeah.
Scorsese, Spielberg. Spielberg's probably my age. Scorsese's older. But that's the first. Scorsese might be 5 years older than me or something. But that's the first generation of kids to even think you could study this, and teachers who taught it. So I didn't realize it at the time. It just, to me, it was just like, oh, this will be fun, and and so I went to Ithaca and studied film and television. While I was there, I started writing and directing and producing. And look, I'm a guy that just likes to make shit up, and if I can find a place to make it up and somebody will listen, I'm going to go there.
That's crazy. What kind of TV and movies were you into back then?
I always loved comedies. I always loved the Marx Brothers and the wit of the Marx Brothers, the silliness of the language of Abbott and Costello, the parsing of the language, the quickness of that kind of storytelling. I always loved that.
Right.
It was a little bit later, as I got older, that I became interested in drama as well. I was always the first guy. When a movie opened, I was always the first guy online. I was the first guy to buy a ticket.
Yeah.
And I was a television geek. I watched every single thing on television all the time.
Like what kind of stuff? Leave It to Beaver?
Yeah, the Dick Van Dyke Show was a huge influence on me. It was because not only was it about, not only was it funny, it was about making television. So I thought, I thought I was looking at, wow, that's what goes on. I'd like to be
party
there. How do I get to do that?
Yeah.
And I'd watch these names fly across the screen, and I remember thinking, who are those guys? How do you get to be those guys? How does that happen?
Yep.
And I don't know. Somehow it happened. I got to be one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're like going to school, and then you have a family, right?
Well, you're talking about college. I didn't have a family.
Well, you get out of college.
Later,
so are you working in film?
What happened was, I got a job. I applied all over the place. Get out of college, you just don't know what. Oh, I got drafted.
You did?
Yeah, I was in the Army. Let's not forget that.
You were in the Army?
Yeah.
What years?
That's right, Dean. I protected this country for you and everybody like you.
Yeah, you got the flag out there. I saw when it pulled
outside.
up.
I'm a veteran, man.
I didn't imagine that
Vietnam
at all.
era veteran.
Did you go to Vietnam?
I said era.
Oh.
Vietnam era veteran.
Right, okay.
I was drafted on again, here's what happened. I get out of college.
You got 3 brothers?
Yeah, I got 2 brothers.
2 brothers. I met them in New York recently.
Yeah.
And they didn't get drafted. You did?
No, because the draft was over by the time. Here's the story. I got out of college, and I get a job at a local TV station, which is really cool. $100 a week, and I did everything on this TV station. I wrote the commercials. I directed the commercials. I directed the news, and I was the puppet Beauregard the dog on the kids show every afternoon.
You were early insult dog. What's that one on Conan?
Yeah, I was Triumph the insult dog. I did everything at this TV station. I go to work in the morning. I go home at night. I was staying at a little Elmira, New York, home of Mark Twain. at this local TV station. It was just a ridiculously.
You could do a pilot on that.
Yeah, it was a funny job. It was
like a guy doing that, like almost a Newhart style.
Yeah, it was
a
very funny job. And while I was there, my dad called me up and he said, "Hey, pack your bags. You got drafted." That's how he tells me. That's the kind of guy he was. Hey,
he got the letter in the mail.
He got the letter in the mail because I didn't change my address. I was still living. My proper address was back in Queens still.
Right.
And I said, "Send it to me. Give it to me." So I take the letter. I go to the local draft board in Elmira, New York, and I say to the guy behind. Now imagine no computers, just big filing cabinets.
Yep.
Just this little guy sitting behind the desk, and I say, "Hey, listen, I got my draft notice. You could see by the address that it's listed for Queens. I got a job up here recently. I forgot to notify you guys that I moved. What can I do? I mean, I can't really get back to New York. It says I have to report in 2 weeks. You got to give me some time here." I just lay it out, just shoveling the shit.
Yeah.
And the guy says, "All right, this happens. Not a problem. We'll draft you. We'll give you a month. We'll draft you next month, and we'll give you time."
Were you bummed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured I had a month, so go party. So I partied. And about less than a month later, Nixon comes on TV and he's instituting the lottery system.
Oh.
The draft is suspended. Oh. So now I have another party. I got lucky.
Yeah.
Now I wait for the lottery to get drawn. They pull all the numbers, and it's based on your birthday. And my birthday, March 23rd, I pulled the number 256. Now, basically, that means you're not getting drafted. Up till about 100, 150 people were believing. After that, and every year it resets. So the following year, you go back to number one.
Oh.
And that's your birthday. That's
so
your
you're
number.
Way up there.
So I'm done. I'm not going. Now I have another party.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, I get this notice in Elmira, report for the draft.
Oh.
I go back down to the same draft board, same little nerdy guy behind the desk. I show him the thing. I said, now I'm arrogant. Now I'm cocky. Now I know that they fucked up. I'm like, hey, you guys made a mistake. You can see there's my birthday, number 256. So, you want to take this back. This guy says, hold on a second. He takes this notice, he goes shuffling to the back room. I hear him going through files. He comes back with my file. He lays it down. He looks at me and he says, no, you see, you were drafted under the old law.
Oh.
So this does not apply to you.
Oh.
You have to go. 2 weeks later, I'm on the bus to Fort Dix, New Jersey. They're shaving my head.
Oh.
And
Marines? Army?
Well, I got drafted into the Army. And now basic training, everybody knows the physical part of basic training.
Yep.
They try to break you down, and you run all over the place with backpacks and guns and all this physical.
Officer and a gentleman stuff.
All this physical and military training. What a lot of people don't know is that part of it also is mental testing and intellectual testing. We got all called into this warehouse full of 200 or 300 guys, pass out tests. And for a week, you're taking tests, several tests a day. The first tests, when you get marched into this room, rudimentary understanding of English, math.
Basic stuff.
Next day, they come in, they say, the following guys report for the testing. And you notice there's a handful of guys who are not coming. I also knew the handful of guys who were not coming were the stupid guys.
Yeah.
Because you knew them by now, right?
Right.
Then the test got a little bit harder. Next day, same thing. They kept weeding it down. Then you get kind of competitive. Like, you don't want to be left out. I want to pass all these tests. I want to be the last man standing.
You're going to be the guy going.
Well, we took all these tests. They got harder and harder and harder. The final day, I'm telling you, there had to be maybe 10 guys. There were several hundred to begin with. Maybe 10 guys. They say, the final test is this. You got all day to do it. It's a language test. And here's the first part of the day. We're going to teach you the language. It was a made-up language.
Wow.
Totally made up language.
Really?
Yeah, totally made up. Then the last half
like spy stuff?
No, like Vietnamese.
Oh, I got
but
you.
Not Vietnamese.
Right.
Just like, this is how you say this is the pluperfect. Here's the past tense. Here's the noun. Here's the pronoun. It was ridiculous. Then they pass out the test, and the test was, here's a story in that language. Now answer it. I remember the bell going off. I didn't even answer one question. I was done. Anyway, 2 weeks later, you're going to go get analyzed for your tests. So when I don't understand something, I don't want to be the first in line, so I go to the back of the line. And I see guys going in and coming right out. Going in, coming right out. They're telling them basically how they did on the test.
Yeah.
Guy comes out, the guy says, how'd you do? Oh man, I did great. They said that based on my test scores, they're going to put me in a motor pool. Next guy. They said I did great. Based on my test scores, they're going to make me a chaplain's assistant. Oh, I did great. They're going to put me in. They're going to make me a clerk. And I'm thinking, there's a fucking war going on.
Yeah.
Nobody was told you're going to be carrying a gun. Nobody was told you're going to artillery. So I go in there, Dean. I remember grabbing the chair on both sides with my hands just sweaty. And I said to the guy, before he could say anything, I said, listen, I studied television and film, and I'm sure that's why I got drafted, and that's the kind of job, that's what I should have. And he says, what are you talking about? I said, television. You got to have like a signal corps, guys that,
photography, all those things.
Yeah, like you got to have that. You must have that. And he was like, never heard of it. He turns around to the other guy. Says, you ever hear of this? The guy says, no. I said, no, I'm serious. Like, really. I start talking. This guy starts talking. He gets out this book. He says, hold on a second. Look at this. 84F20. I'll never forget the number. 84F20, television production specialist. I said, that's me. That's me. That's what I got drafted for. You must need those guys.
Yeah.
I'm talking, I'm bullshitting, I'm asking him what's his favorite food, where does he live, I'm finding out everything about this guy. And he says, and he fills out this thing, and he says, all right, I'll tell you what, I'm going to put down 84F20 for you. See that little mark there? He says, that's a check mark that if we check that, you'll definitely get it. If I don't check it, it's just a recommendation. Now, I don't know whether he's bullshitting about the check mark, but that's all I got to go on. So I walk out. The next guy in line says, the hell were you doing in there? I said, what do you mean? He said, you're in there for 45 minutes. Everybody else was in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
Cut to 8 weeks later, and the basic training. Start rattling off everybody's MOS, military occupational status, artillery, infantry. He gets to my name, D'Elia. He turns around, the guy, the sergeant's announced all this shit, turns around the guy and says, what the hell is this? 84F20. I got sent to Fort Benning, Georgia.
Yeah.
I worked in the United States Army Infantry School Television Division.
Man.
2 years. Made training tapes and films for troops going to Vietnam, coming back from Vietnam. It was a TV studio job, and it was like MASH without the blood. It was a bunch of college kids who all studied it, who all worked in it a little bit, who got drafted and wound up in this unit.
That's kind of a dope gig, right?
It was a great gig.
And so you guys were making like films?
Proper care and maintenance of your M16, guard duty parts 1 and 2. That was an epic. That was a big one.
Hey, can you get those on DVD right now or Netflix?
I don't know. You could try. I doubt it. That's highly classified information.
So you get out of that and you start working again?
Yeah, I get out. Well, I was always like, give me I didn't like to sleep. I still don't like to sleep.
Really?
I like to work, and I like to move, and I like to keep going. And it wasn't until I got married that I understood, because Ellie kept trying to convince me that vacations were good.
Right.
It wasn't until I got married that I even understood the concept of a vacation.
You're like a workaholic?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm called. I don't like the term, but I love to work.
Yeah, me too.
And so while I was in the Army, I'd go to work at 8 a.m. and I'd finish work at 5 p.m. for Uncle Sam.
Yep.
So me and a buddy from Chicago, he said, let's go into town, see if we can get a job at a local TV station. We got a job at Channel 5, being cameraman for the news at night.
You could do that while you're in the Army?
No, it was against the law.
Oh, oh man.
Wait, I liked it so much that I applied for a job at the other station. And here's my gig. Here's my whole routine while I was in the Army. Monday through Friday, work for Uncle Sam, 8 to 5. Monday through Thursday nights, I'd go to work at Channel 9, and I would do the news. Friday nights I had off. Saturday morning, I did the sign-on shift at Channel 9. Sunday morning, I did the sign-on shift at Channel 9. Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon, I directed the local news for Channel 5, and then Monday back again. So I worked around the clock. The only night I slept was Friday night. I was exhausted. So I get out of the Army, and I'm just looking for a gig, and I wanted to stay in New York. I did not want to come to Los Angeles. I still don't want to come to Los Angeles, by the way.
Yeah,
but
really?
now I'm here.
Yeah. You've been here how many years?
20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, about 20, a little bit more maybe. I started working out here in 1990, but we moved out here in 92.
Did you move out here? You got a job.
Yeah, I started directing television, and the commercial business had pretty much dried up. And I was still living in New Jersey. Chris and Matt were just kids, and I would fly out here to work and fly back. And then there was one stretch where I came out here to do a show or two, and wound up out here for 6 or 8 months.
Wow.
And then I just went home and I said, let's pack and let's see what it's like in Los Angeles.
And where'd you guys land?
We came out here in '92, and the reason we moved to La Cañada was because it had a great school system.
That's right.
I could put Chris and Matt into a good school system without worrying about, the LA school system and what, how do you go, where do you go, how do you go,
Yeah.
how do you get a letter, how do you get a recommendation, all that stuff. So
Is this the house you guys?
No, we had a big house around the corner, and then once they grew up and moved out.
This ain't a big house?
No. You should have seen that other house.
No. Wait a minute. This ain't a big house.
No.
We're in your offices the size of my house.
No, you should have seen that other house. It was
Okay, here's the cool thing.
yeah.
Basically, you just told me that you had nothing handed to you.
No. Hell no. No,
Now, I see this poster over here.
I've been broke more than once.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
And it broke with kids.
Yeah.
And was your wife working, or what was going on with that?
She had she always worked. She worked at the ABC News political unit because I met her in college. She studied film and TV too.
In Ithaca?
In Ithaca, yeah. And she worked at ABC News for a while on the political unit, analyzing election returns and politics. And then after the kids were born, after Chris was born, she still worked for them, and she was able to work from home. And then she became a location scout for a while in New Jersey. And but that led her to interior decorating. She became an interior decorator.
Oh, right, that's her gig.
Yeah. So she did that in New Jersey, and then when we moved out here, she did that for a while out here too. But not working enough to pull in the dough the way we were used to living. And
what kind of broke? Like you had money and then you went broke?
Well, no. Yeah. What happened was I was making a pretty good living as a commercial director. That's where I wound up after I got out of the Army.
And what's this, the 70s?
Yeah, mid 70s. I get out of the Army. I got a pretty good gig at a company that made television commercials. I'm saying that wrong. It was a marketing company,
right?
For a chain of retail stores. I was in their advertising department. It was about as far removed from making film as you could get.
Were you bummed, or you were just, I got to do what I can do?
I'm young, and I just got out of the Army. I'm in New York. I'm making a living. I'm making enough that we can, get an apartment and be okay. But it was but I was bummed because it was like, how do I ever get from this to what I really want to do?
Right. And like you couldn't just grab a camera now and just make something. Like
now
back
you have such opportunity to make something. Then you needed money, equipment, sizable equipment, lights. It was a big
everything.
Deal. You just couldn't do it. But and I continued to write. Like I always liked to write, but I couldn't find an avenue to sell anything. I wasn't writing anything that could be sold. I was just writing because I always had that. I was just like.
What are you writing? Scripts?
Short stories mainly. I was writing stories just to please myself because I had shit rattling around in my head, and and I had to put it down.
That's like me.
I got notebooks somewhere all over the place of thoughts and ideas from back then, but it was. But I got into commercials and I was making a living, and then at the during that time first time I went broke was when I started my own production company. I went from getting a steady paycheck at this marketing company to getting a steady paycheck at an ad agency. I went from there to an ad agency where I started to produce commercials, but I still didn't feel like I was being creative. I was just sort of managing other people. Yeah. And I didn't like it.
That's the worst.
I just didn't like it. I was picking directors to do things, and I was...
That you could do.
And then, that's when I thought I could do it. I watched these guys do it, and I thought, I bet I could do that. If that's what a director does for real, I bet I could do that.
Yeah.
And I bet I could do it. Back then, guys were screamers and yellers and big egos, and I thought two things. I thought, I bet I could do that, and I bet you could be a nice guy doing that too. I bet you don't have to be an asshole.
Well, that's what, one thing weird about you, I mean, I'll cut in real quick, was I just did this video with Chris, and there was people working on this video that had worked for you, and they were like, yeah, we worked, this girl said I worked with Bill D'Elia.
No kidding.
And every time I meet someone, they go, "Guy, he's such a great guy," and I was like, "How does that happen in Hollywood?" Because you never hear a successful guy, and after that, they go, "He's a great guy." Never. You go, "Oh, real cocksucker," but man, can he make a good film? You never hear great guy, but when they say you hear great guy. And I don't know. I mean, that's awesome. It's hard to do in town because it's so ego-driven, and it's really hard to be nice. You got to make bad decisions. Like you got to cut people.
You know what? It's not hard.
It's not. I don't know because I've been around the evil machine.
Yeah, sure, but I guess it's easy to fall into that.
Right.
But when you come up like I came up, when you watch a guy stand on the street corner selling newspapers,
that's right,
and hustle his ass to provide for a family, well, then when you get to work with people and you're in charge, you know what it feels like to work for somebody. You know, I've had jobs where I've worked for bosses who were dicks.
Yeah.
I didn't do my best work.
Yeah.
I've had jobs where I worked for people I thought were really cool. I worked my ass off.
You're right.
So I apply that to what I do.
Right.
If you're doing what is considered by, there's a hierarchy. Okay, the producers, the directors up here, and then there's everybody else going down to the prop guy and the grips and the best boys and the hierarchy,
catering, everybody.
But craft service, and the hierarchy tells you you're more important than them, but you're not. Yeah. Not as a person, you're not. Your job may pay you more. Your job may be on the line because you have all this pressure to deliver, but so do they. And so do they have families to provide for, and so do they have bills to pay. And if they're good at what they do, they're as important as look, there's a lot of guys do my job and they're not good. Those guys, I don't want to be really nice to those guys. But if I'm surrounded by people who are good, I have such respect for what they do, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, it's just like an awesome team. Also, if the people are great, you want to have the same people all the time. Like when I worked for the Rolling Stones, they each year, every 4 or 5 years, they call the same people. These are guys that have made it through 20 years.
Yep.
Then they're all hip. They know how to work together.
There are people on my crew that I've known for 20 years.
Oh yeah, I was on the Wonder Woman set, and and there's people that work for you, and but that seemed like a great time.
Yeah.
People even it was hard work, but it's nighttime, it's dark, and it's
a long time ago, somebody said to me when I was still getting into the business, look, the job is hard enough. What you want to do is try to go out of your way to not make it any harder. And that's a simple philosophy, but I actually find it kind of sad that it's unusual that people say about me, you're honest, you always tell the truth, you're a nice guy. Why should that be unusual?
Well,
it's sort of like sad when I hear it. It's a compliment, but I just feel, wow, to be distinguished for that is.
Well, it's great. I mean,
sad.
When I met you, I was like, this guy's super cool, man. Like, I want to be in the family. You know what I mean? Like, you meet guys, I meet guys every day when you're working on something or whatever, and they're just dicks.
Yeah.
And you just go, well, that's how they are, I guess.
I could see it happen. I mean, I could see where it could happen because the pressure is enormous to deliver, but you just don't go
At
there.
the end of the day, you're working in Hollywood. You're not like, I mean, I used to swing a hammer when I was like 20.
Yeah.
I worked this shitty labor job, and get up every morning with these guys at 5:30 in the morning and commute like an hour.
That's tough stuff.
Oh, and it would be dark out still.
That's what I say. I haven't had a real job in 30 years.
Yeah, and I'm like,
in this business.
I played music at night, so I just had no passion for this. And these guys would be into it, and it's hot, and you're swinging hammer. I get the fuck out of here.
But look, there's a lot of ego involved, and I have as big an ego as the next guy, but I think it's in check, and I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy, and I think that my ego is supremely 100% attached to the work.
Right.
If the work is really the best it can be, then my ego is satisfied. It's not about me. It's about the work, and we're all doing that work. It's not one guy's doing that work.
Right. Now, tell me about this here, The Feud. You got a poster. You were telling me it was the first film you directed?
Yeah.
Is it the only film you directed?
It's the only theatrical film I've directed.
Right.
It's the only movie I made that was in theaters. Yeah.
And what year did it come out?
1990. I made it in 1988. Here's what happened. I had a pretty successful commercial business. I quit the ad agency I was at to make commercials.
And what kind of commercials are you making? Like mainstream
Yeah,
toothpaste, Crest, stuff like that?
Yeah, McDonald's and Oldsmobile cars and food and kids toys and.
Are you making money on that, right?
Yeah.
Does the director get residuals?
No, you don't get residuals in commercials. You get residuals in TV and movies, but you don't get them in commercials. If I got residuals in commercials, this has to be a lot bigger.
Well, the actors do, right? I mean, like
in commercials, you get residuals every time you're on the air, but you don't get
each time it's on. I mean, not over the year. I understand that, right?
For directing commercials, you get paid
a flat rate.
Well,
right?
But and that's what I saw. I was working at an ad agency, and I thought, man, we're paying these guys at the time. They were getting like $2,000 a day to direct these things, and that was back in the 70s.
Right.
By the time I got out of it, that was like $10,000-$15,000 a day.
And usually, a 3-day shoot?
Yeah, and you'd look at this and say, "Geez, I could do that." So I went to my bosses in advertising, and I said I was always hustling. I went into these guys and I said, "Hey, I'll save you $2,000 a day. Let me put together a little unit here, and I'll direct them myself." And they did. I saved a bunch of money for our clients, and then I wound up with a reel of commercials that I directed, and then I quit, started my own company with that reel.
What was the first one you did?
The first commercial I did was for the first commercial I directed was for a company that fixed transmissions in
like Amco,
Philadelphia.
Oh, like
Cottman. It was Cottman, Cottman. I have no idea if they're still in business. Cottman Transmissions in Philadelphia. I did a package of 3 commercials. They were very fun to do, and those are the first commercials I did on my own, and that I started my company. But that's the first time. You were talking about going broke. That's the first time I went broke. I left, and I thought, okay, I got enough money. I can last for a while here, and it was I went like 10 months without doing
getting a job
thing, and then I got a McDonald's commercial.
Oh.
And then
thank God for McDonald's.
And that McDonald's commercial led me to lots of. And then for most of the '80s, I started that in '79. Most of the '80s, I was a fairly successful commercial director. And then in 1985, I'm getting to that poster, the movie. In 1985, it was like, hold on a second, I'm in my mid-30s here, and this is what I do. This is who I am. I make commercials.
Right.
That was a serious setback in what I thought about myself. I thought I was going to be a filmmaker.
Right.
I thought, well, how do I get out of this? Nobody's like looking at my commercials and saying, "Hey, make this movie." So what do I do?
And especially during that golden era of like 70s to about 81 of the film era, you got Scorsese, you've got
Altman,
you've got all that stuff.
Right.
The Woody Allen, just the best films made. So you got to be going like, damn, these guys are so inspiring.
Well, what was tremendously inspiring to me, what made me think I could take the leap, was one movie.
What was
it? It was Nashville.
Oh, awesome!
I can tell you where I sat in the theater on 3rd Avenue and saw this movie. I was off to the right, to the left of the screen, to the right of the theater, and that movie. When I watched that movie on spool, I thought, if you could make movies like this, I bet you I could be this kind of filmmaker. And that was Robert Altman.
That's
and he
right.
was tremendously inspiring to me in my early career. Cut to, I'm in the middle of what I just told you about. How do I get to make movies? And I'm a big fan of this author, Thomas Berger.
Right.
Thomas Berger is the guy that wrote Little Big Man, the book.
Oh, yeah.
The guy that wrote Neighbors, another book that got made of his into a movie. The
Belushi one, Neighbors?
Yeah. Bad movie.
Bad movie, yeah.
But great. One of the best books I ever read. One of the best novels I ever read. Hysterically funny, satirical. He's a darkly funny man in the way he writes. If you know Kurt Vonnegut's writing, Kurt Vonnegut's like extremely funny and out there. This guy's darker, more sardonic, and almost where you read him and you think, am I supposed to be laughing at this? That kind of funny.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm uncomfortable, but this is funny.
They're the best
He
stuff.
writes that shit. So I read every one of his novels. I just love this man. And I'm telling you true. I woke up one morning in the middle of my angst about how am I going to become a filmmaker. And I had read this book, The Feud, by Thomas Berger, a year earlier. And I woke up this morning and I saw the whole movie in my head. I just got out of bed and I said, there's a movie right there. How do I get the rights to that book? How do I make this movie? I just was self-motivated and inspired to make this movie.
Right.
I call up an attorney who was handling my business, my commercial business. I said, how do I option a novel? He said, what novel? I tell him. He says, I know that guy. I know Berger's manager, agent. I'll call him up. Calls me back later that day. He says, I got bad news. The book is already optioned, and it's optioned by Robert Altman.
Oh, you got a good. You're on the right pace.
So that's exactly what I thought. I thought, man, I'm in sync with
Same
what I
flavor.
originally thought. I said, no, that's actually good news. He said, yeah, but you can't get the rights. I said, no, it's good news. It makes me feel good that I'm going in the right direction.
Right.
He said, look, I told him, put a pin in it. He says, his option is up in September, and if he drops it, give us a call. September, dropped it. I pick it up, and I spend every night adapting this book into a screenplay, all on my own, in between my commercial projects. I put the kids to bed. Ellie would go to sleep. I'd sit in my office till 2 a.m. It was my midnight to 2 a.m. project. I wrote this script. And I get the script together. I close my production company. And now, again, second time in my life, I'm looking at a period of time where I got enough money, so I should be okay.
Yeah.
Well, those calendar pages go flipping
yeah,
by.
they do.
They go flipping by real fast. I'm going broke real fast. Now I have the house, the wife.
You're living
two
out here?
kids. No, I'm still in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. Dean, I don't know anybody out here.
Right.
I don't know a single person out here.
That's so weird.
I knew like a couple of crew guys because I had come out to do commercials
Right.
once in a while. I didn't know anybody in terms of making movies, anybody in terms of making TV, not a soul. I feel now like I know everybody, but I didn't know anybody back then. And I just got this script. What do? I think this. If I quit my commercial business, I have to move forward. I have no other choice but to make this movie. And I closed the company. And I did what I call it the bold, arrogant, and stupid thing.
Yeah.
I closed the company. And then I closed the company, and people would say to me, other companies, hey, you want to come direct for me because I got this gig? You want to direct? And I would say no.
Oh.
I would say no because I thought if I say yes, I'm still in that business. But I'm not in this business anymore.
That's
I'm
right.
going to make a movie.
Yep.
I remember sitting across from my attorney and saying, I'm going to make this movie. And I said, you know how I know I'm going to make this movie? And he said, how? I said, because I know I'm going to make this movie. That was my sole
You
rationale.
just had nothing.
And the guy looked at me and he said, you know, that's how movies get made. And Dean,
Yeah.
a friend of mine says to me, what are you doing? You close your company, you're home. What's going on? I said, I'm making a movie. He said, what do you mean you're making a movie? I said, he said, how much money do you need? I said, I need $1.5 million. That's what the budget was. He said, $1.5 million? You can make a movie for $1.5 million? I said, yeah. He said, no, that doesn't make any sense to me. I said, well, let's have lunch. Let's have dinner. I meet the guy for dinner. Now, the guy's just a friend of mine. He says, how are you going to do this? I said, I figured it out. I got a lot of people that'll come with me for my commercial business. I got a great screenplay. He said, all right. It's just, that's it. Turns out my friend worked as the head. He was the head of the municipal bond department at Lehman Brothers at the time. And he was very wealthy.
Wow.
To me, he was a buddy. I knew
Yeah,
he
yeah.
had a good job, but I didn't know he was very wealthy. He calls me up a week later. It's a true story. I want you to come down here to World Trade Center and tell a bunch of guys what you told me. What do you mean? He says, I'm going to get you the money.
Whoa.
Okay.
$1.5 million in like
I go
85.
I go down. I put on my best clothes. I go down the 103rd floor of the World Trade Center, and I'm in a room that to me looked like the movie The Hudsucker Proxy, that boardroom. That
Yeah, with the long table.
Boardroom, that long table. The heads down the other end were like teeny tiny, this big. The heads up close up near me were real big. It was at that kind of a table. My friend's name, Frank Scaraggi, still lives in Montclair, New Jersey. Frank says to all these guys,
Is he mob?
No, no.
Sounds
You
like-
guys, you fucking bigot, just because he's got a last name,
You hear that?
Raji, D'Elia, you think it's a mob deal, right?
Big money,
You think
mom.
it's the fucking Sopranos, right? You fucking racist bastard.
I love that. Hey, he's mob, right?
This guy's a very wealthy, very successful economics genius.
Mob guy.
Economic genius mob guy. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So this is his very words. He said, "This is my friend Bill D'Elia. He says he can make a movie for $1.5 million. I think he's crazy.
Yeah.
So let's raise $2 million for him.
Oh,
Bill, tell him what you told me." I get up. I tell him this was April of 1988. By July, I had $2 million in the bank from those guys.
it went into
Investing
your
in my
bank
movie.
account?
No, we set up a
Right.
company, set up the thing. Money was all for the movie.
Man.
And in October, I'm making the movie.
And you never even made a movie.
No.
And are you scared to death or what?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Now, who do you get in the cast? Anybody big?
I hired a casting director that I knew from commercials.
Right.
And we got Rene Aubergenois, David Strathairn, and Stanley Tucci in the cast.
And where do you shoot it?
And I shot it in North Carolina.
How many months?
It takes place in a small town, 2 neighboring towns, in the 50s. The book was written for the 30s. I adapted it for the 50s. And I shot for 5 weeks.
Wow.
5 6-day weeks. And
Did you go over budget?
no. Brought it in for the $1.5 million, even a little bit less, as I recall. Then had enough money to, finish the picture, and then came a real dark time too, because I finished the movie, and nobody gave a shit.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, like what do? You made a
some guy
movie,
that
it's just sitting in
some
a
guy
can.
that nobody knows made a movie.
Yeah.
And so I tried to just reach out. I wrote letters. I made phone calls. No email. No, there was none of that shit back then.
No.
So just wrote a lot of letters, got a lot of rejections. But I did a smart thing. During the making of the movie, I hired a publicist.
Oh.
And in the budget of that $1.5 million, I had money for press. And during the making of the movie, I had stories laid into the press in Variety, Hollywood Reporter, making a movie. This guy's making a movie. It's based on a Thomas Berger novel. Then, because I was saving money, by the time I was in editing, I had money to buy ads.
Oh.
I bought full-page ads in Variety. This is coming. This is coming.
Wow.
So then I started to get phone calls. People wanted to see it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So by the time I was finished, people wanted to see it. And I got it into, some private screenings. And back then, you're not carrying around a DVD. You're
No,
carrying
you got
around
the
film
can. Yeah, the cans.
Huge film cans.
Yeah.
And you got to set up a screening room.
Oh.
You're not even making it. You're not even taking it.
Yeah,
to
how many
put it
prints you got of it? Just one?
One. I think I had 2 maybe.
Wow.
And that was it. Anyway, the movie eventually got a distributor and got a video release. But the main thing, and it didn't make any money. It opened in New York.
Who bought it?
A company called Vidmark and Castle Hill, not to be confused with Castle Rock. Castle Hill.
Castle
is a
Rock,
tiny
very successful.
Castle Hill is a tiny company out of New York. And, they got it into the Quad Cinema on 14th Street, which at the time was the independent cinema in New York.
Wow.
That was the theater that, before the Angelica or any of the cool theaters in fact, where Matt's movie was shown just this year. I don't think that cinema even existed then. And it's a far better cinema than the Quad. But it opened at the Quad. I got spectacular reviews.
No shit?
Yeah, I got just the greatest review from the Daily News, a really great review from the New York Times.
Wow.
And then I got noticed, and I got an agent, came out here. But here's the really cool thing. Rene Aubergenois was in the movie, the actor Rene. And he said to me while I was making the movie, "What are you going to do when you're done?" I said, "I don't have a clue." I said, I don't have anything lined up. I can't go back to commercials. I'm just hoping this does something for me. He said, "Would you like to meet Stephen Bochco?" And I said, what does it say, stupid up here? Of course I want to meet Stephen Bochco. He said, "Well, I went to school with Stephen, and I'll set up a meeting." I flew out here to L.A. Bochco could not have been nicer. I expected to meet a guy who was answering phones and busy, and he shut the door, didn't take any calls, and met with me for an hour. And I got an episode of Doogie Howser to direct.
Wow.
Out of that.
That's amazing.
And that episode led to an episode of Northern Exposure that
Great
episode.
show.
And then Northern Exposure led me to Picket Fences and David Kelly, and that was pretty much it. I just started working.
That's incredible,
But
man.
to get
you
back-
rolled the dice, though.
Yeah.
It's the only way you get anywhere in life is when you roll the dice, right?
You have to thoroughly believe in yourself.
Yep.
And you have to also be involved in an area. If it's the arts, if you're involved in the arts, you have to, if you're going to be successful, you have to do the thing that you can suffer the rejection for.
Yeah.
When I made the movie and it didn't get sold and it didn't get bought and people didn't like it and it didn't make any money, that's a severe rejection. And it hurts.
Oh, yeah.
But I just thought, how could all those people be wrong? How could that happen? That's not right.
That's how I feel all the
You just
time.
pick yourself up and go again. You know, it's like,
I always think like someone's going to get me eventually. You know what I mean? You just...
what you're saying is exactly it. You got to put yourself in this position. I like it. I like it. I really like that. I gotta believe there's people that agree with me.
It's true.
And then there's lots of people who won't agree with me, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this and please everybody.
No.
Because that's the road to mediocrity, by the way.
Right.
The only thing everybody agrees on is mediocrity.
That's right.
Everybody will agree on that. If everybody likes it, I just think
it's terrible.
Or I think somebody's not telling me the truth.
Yeah. That's how I feel when I'm on stage.
Yeah.
And I get off and there's about 10 people that come right up to me and go, man, you were great. Those 10 people like are so into it. And the rest are like, hey, good show tonight or whatever. But those 10, if I could just pick those 10 up every day, different ones.
Look, I've seen your act. It's terrific and it's specific and it's hilarious. And because it's specific, it's some people are going to love it and some people aren't. That's what makes it good.
I love that about it.
But that's what makes it good.
Right.
It's not good if everybody agrees.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it can be. I'm not saying that there aren't things in popular culture that everybody agrees on that aren't good. That happens, but it doesn't have to happen.
Well, you need two things, right, to be successful. You need the people that hate you, and then you need the people that love you, because that's what connects that friction and talk
and
around.
Talk about it
around the workplace. It's I mean, I always look at Hollywood. I always tell Chris this, like, when are you going to get me on as the weird neighbor? Like, there's not enough of that Kramer guy on shows, like not that style, but just somebody that's not in the box.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, like, to me, I think the thing that really bums me out on Hollywood is what's he look like. Even with comedy right now, stand-up comedy, it's really turning towards the guys that aren't that funny but look pretty good are getting gigs, and you're like, well, this guy's not funny at all. And that's what killed music. You know, I was in the music business forever, and it just went to good-looking guys and put these clothes on them.
Yeah. Look, you know, I don't know the answer to that. I do think this, though, because you're coming at it from an angle that I'm not as aware of because of where I sit. Where I sit, I'm always going to need a guy like you. I'm always going to need a character like you.
I'm ready for that Robin Williams show.
You're going to get parts because there may be a movement in stand-up comedy to the good-looking guy, but there's always a movement in films and TV. Where's that 30-something guy that is
totally?
You know, the next,
I understand
the
business.
next Bradley Cooper kind of thing.
Oh, and I understand
it. But that guy is only going to go so far if he does not have talent.
That's right.
If he'll get in the door and he'll get a part or two because he's the right type that they need.
Right.
But you've seen far, far too many. I've seen far, far too many failed television shows because the network and the studio say, we need that good-looking guy, and he can't act worth a shit.
Yeah.
And they put him in a thing, and the thing fails because
Yep.
he can't carry it. But it's the interesting character that's always going to carry the day. I mean,
Steve Buscemi. I mean, he's the god.
Jack Nicholson was not a good-looking man.
Not at all. Amazing.
But he's a tremendous talent. And you keep working at craft and you keep working at the specifics of the stories you want to tell. You can't not succeed. I always say you need three things in this business to succeed, and they change over the course of a career. And the first three things you need are perseverance, perseverance, and perseverance.
Yeah. Tommy at the Comedy
And
Store calls me a bulldozer.
I just described that to you in how I made the movie.
Absolutely.
I just persevered. I didn't know how to make a movie. I didn't have a clue that when I got there if I'd fall apart, but I had belief in me, so I persevered. Then the second thing you still need three things, but the three things change. Those three things then become perseverance, and talent.
Yeah.
You have to have talent to get to the next level where you're appreciated, or people like what you do, where you get some work. And then the final phase of your career is you still need three things. I consider the final phase, I mean, like there's three parts to a career. I want to do it. I'm doing it. I'm okay. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
This third part, I'm okay. I'm going to keep doing it. You still need three things. Those three things now become this: perseverance, and talent. No, I'm sorry, I just fucked up. That's the middle. The middle is perseverance, and talent.
Right.
The third phase, it's perseverance, talent, and talent. You need 2 parts talent, 1 part perseverance.
Yeah.
Because if you lose the perseverance, suddenly you're going to wake up one day and you're going to think, what happened? Why is my phone not ringing?
Yeah, I'm not working.
You have to. I'm constantly thinking about what next. What can I do better? Where's the next gig coming from? I got this gig. What's next? Constantly, I can't stop thinking about that.
Right.
The minute I relax, I think I'm dead, and it's no fun if you relax.
That's like me. Every day I'm working. Like, you know what I mean? I work every day. I don't. What's today? Sunday?
Yep.
I'm working, then I'm going to go work tonight. You know what I mean? I work 7 nights a week.
Yeah.
You can't have any girlfriend. You can't have any life or anything.
Well, look at Chris. Chris to make, everybody's like, where do you come from? Look at that guy. And you talk about he's good looking.
Yeah.
He's funny as shit, though.
Yeah, that's different, though. Yeah.
But to get where he is now, where he's got a fan base, where he's on a TV show, that guy worked in a year's time. We all know how many days there are in a year.
That's right.
He worked 450 shows.
That's right.
A year.
Yeah, when he told me that, I went after it and I did 532.
Well, there you go.
Just to get him.
And making no money.
Zero.
Just how to get up and where am I working tonight and how many times can I work tonight?
That's right.
And that's
zero money. People always ask me how much money.
People don't realize that. People don't realize all of a sudden there you are and they're like, oh, look at this guy. Or in the case, you talked earlier about not having anything fed to me, that I worked hard for everything I got. And I continue to do so. But I got here, I'm on the map from nowhere, not even having a map.
That's right.
And there are people who look at Chris and they look at Matt and they think, oh, yeah, his dad's in the business.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
That does not mean shit.
That's right.
I made Chris funny. I made Matt talented.
Yeah.
You can't get anywhere unless you have the drive to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of my best friends is Jacob Dylan, right? His dad is Bob Dylan. Right. You know what I'm saying? But Bob Dylan didn't write those fucking songs, One Headlight and 6th Avenue Heartache. You know what I mean? Bob Dylan didn't go, here's these songs, go sing. He had to write these songs. Yep. And then it's like being Woody Allen's son or something. Your dad is the biggest guy of all time. You still have to do the work, you know what I mean? And have the talent.
Nobody gives a shit.
They don't.
People on the outside kind of look in and think, oh, of course.
Yeah.
But nobody on the inside gives a shit that I have 2 kids that want to be in the business.
They don't.
My kids give a shit that they want to be in the business, and that's why they're in the business.
That's right.
They'll get in because they've got that same drive that if they got anything from me, they got that. They got that drive to just keep working. I got
lucky that I met Chris like 6 months in of doing comedy, because when you're doing comedy, nobody's talking to you. You can't just walk up to like a Bill Burr and go, hey, man, so what do I do? He'll be like, you fuck off for sure. You know what I mean? You're like, oh. But I met him, and I remember I was just standing there for a minute. I asked him, what do we got any advice? And he's like, be at the Comedy Store every night. Try to go on 2-3 times a night. Do every open mic, every show you can. Work 7 nights a week. That was it. That's all he said. That's it. And that's what I did. I just walked away. I didn't ask him anything else like, well, what about this or that? Because that's going to make him crazy. And I just cruised away and did that. And I got very lucky that I heard, because I thought I was a comedian. I was going on Saturday night, you know what I mean, or whatever. And I took that and ran with it, Well, luck is the residue of design. Luck favors the prepared mind. You can get lucky, but you can't get lucky without perceiving things the way you want to perceive them and moving towards a direction. It just doesn't happen any other way. Right. It's true. And then Matt's a director.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got like the perfect family. First of all, you look great. How old are you?
64.
You look fucking amazing. I'm like 50. I'm not 50, but I feel 50.
Know, get the fuck out.
But you look great, man. You got a great career, and you're married still.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants that, man.
Over 40 years.
Unbelievable.
It's look, it's fun. Life is fun. I mean, it's all. I had a kid ask me the other day. I was speaking to students at Ithaca College, and they were asking me questions, and the kid said, "How do you wake up in the morning and find inspiration if you're not inspired? Where do you find it?" And I looked at her dumbfounded, because I said, I don't know how to wake up in the morning and not be inspired. I can't answer the question.
Yeah, I've never been there.
I'm inspired every day.
Yeah.
And if I've given anything to the boys, it's that, that I mean, Matt just did what took me 40 years to do. I was 40 when I made The Feud.
Right.
I adapted the novel when I was 35, and it took me 5 years to get the movie made. Matt just turned 29, and at 27 decided he was writing and directing a movie, and he scrounged up $1,000 here, $2,000 there from family and friends, and he made a terrific debut feature.
People love it.
Yeah, and look, nobody gives a shit that you want to make a movie. Nobody gives a shit that you want to be funny. Nobody gives a crap that you want to get up on the stage.
They don't care at all until they can make money.
You have to give a crap.
Yeah.
You have to give a shit more than any other 10 people do, and then it gets done. And then they start coming along saying, oh, yeah, he's funny. That guy, I want to see that guy again.
That's it.
And it doesn't come from you just getting up there. And to me, watching Chris, watching his career, and then watching other stand-up comedians, I've gotten to know a lot of you guys now. Fortunately, through Chris, it's been a blast for me, because I love to come hang out at the Comedy Store and the Laugh Factory,
awesome.
And hang with you guys and watch what goes on. But to watch the specifics of that career, which is a corner of the business I never knew before, only peripherally, to watch you guys get up and work it every day is just fascinating.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Really, really, really tough.
What about when Chris told you he wanted to be a stand-up comedian? Were you just kind of like, do it? Or were you
I wanted to. It was like when you heard Kennedy got shot.
Oh, no. Oh, that bad, huh?
It was like, there were two moments. One was when he said to me, I want to be an actor. And I just thought, what the fuck do you want to do that for?
Yeah.
And he said, well, you have friends that are actors. I said, yeah, but those are different. Most of them are not. You don't want to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
And then when he said, I made a New Year's resolution, I'm going to go to this club. There's an open mic night. I'm going to try it. I remember thinking, well, that's the end of the line. I mean, I know a lot of really funny people. I'm surrounded by them in my life and career, but that's a very specific thing to do. I knew that much about it.
Right.
And I knew how hard it was
so
to
weird.
do. And, I really thought, good luck. I know you're funny, and I remember telling him, here's the only thing I know, because I'm a student of stand-up comedy. When I was in my 20s, when I was a teenager, I mean, I would buy Smothers Brothers albums, Bob Newhart albums, Woody Allen albums, and in the 70s, George Carlin was God to me.
Absolutely.
I saw George Carlin live a couple of times, once at Carnegie Hall. I still listen to George Carlin.
Me too.
He's on my iPod.
Yeah.
But all I said to Chris was, I only know one thing. Whether you're Woody Allen or George Carlin or Robin Williams, all distinctly different in their approach to comedy. They all had something that was the same, and it was a belief that they were funny, a confidence when they got up there. And you watch comics starting out; they're so hungry to, I'm funny, right?
Please
do that
like
thing,
me.
and there's a stink on them.
Yeah.
Because they do that, you sort of like, oh God, this guy really needs it. But if you get up there like, I know some shit, and I'm going to tell you about it, and I hope you laugh at it because I think it's fucking funny. If you think it's genuinely funny, whatever your style is, and I had no idea what Chris's style was going to be.
Right.
I just knew he was. I thought he was going to get up there and talk, or be more like Woody Allen than what he does.
Right.
And But I didn't know. And he said, look, I don't want you to come. I don't want, and so the next day, Chris Mocco, you know Chris Mocco?
Yep, he started with him.
Mocco called me up the next day. He said, Mr. D'Elia, you're not going to believe what happened. I said, what do you mean? He said, it's open mic night, so nobody's paying attention. Nobody cares who's going up there. And we all got up, and Mocco got up and did some stuff. Everybody was it was like a night out for the guys to have fun. And he said, nobody's listening. They're drinking, they're eating. Nobody's paying attention. He said, Chris got up there, and within a minute, people stopped drinking, stopped eating, and started laughing. And he quieted down the room and owned it, and they all were laughing. And from the very first time he got up there, he was comfortable. And a year and a half later, he's at the Laugh Factory, at the Comedy Store. But he found it, and he found it because of what I'm talking about. He's listening to himself.
Right.
And he realized, I'm not getting any parts as an actor. I'm not getting anywhere as an actor. I want to do it on my own so nobody's judging me but me.
That's it, man. You got to make your own page these days.
And you got to judge you, no matter what whether you're a writer or an actor or a comedian, a director. You got to judge you, and you got to judge you by a higher standard than the next guy will, and you're going to get there.
Yeah. It's just hard work. People just don't ever understand that.
It's as hard as swinging a pickaxe. It's hard work. It really is. You got to get up every day and work it.
It's funny because, people always ask that, they'll say, oh man, that guy, he's just got this or whatever, and nobody just gets this or that. And people don't understand that. You know what I mean? It's it doesn't work like that.
No.
There's so much money involved. You don't just go and go, hey, it's Bob's kid. Put him on a sitcom. Or Bill's kid, or Frank's kid or Jimmy's kid. It doesn't work like that.
No, not at all.
If it did, every person in the planet's families would be in the biz.
Paul Newman's son would be a huge star.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
That's the way it worked. That's the way it would be.
It's weird, man.
One last story about the feud that I want to share with you.
First of all, before you do, is that the only feud poster you have?
No, I got plenty of them.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
There's one here in my office at home. There's one at my office at work.
Yeah.
And there are several more in storage.
Constant reminder.
That's the first thing I hang up no matter where I go. But when I was finally making the movie, when I knew I was going to get to make the movie, I put a call to an actor to play in the movie, the actor Paul Dooley. Now, I don't know if you know him offhand, but if you saw him, you'd recognize him. I called Paul Dooley because I knew Paul he did commercials, and I had directed him in commercials. And I called, and my casting director said, well, Paul is like a little bit of a star now. He's not going to work for scale on a little movie like this. And I said, well, call him anyway. Tell him it's me because he knows me, and maybe that'll make a difference. And so the casting director calls me back, and he says, Paul Dooley said he wanted to play this part when Robert Altman offered it to him. Robert Altman was going to make the movie with the same guy.
That's so creepy, huh?
The same guy. And eventually Paul had to drop out, and I cast Ron McClarty in the role. But it was so refreshing that
same page.
I wanted the book that Bob wanted, and I wanted to cast the actor that Bob wanted.
Man, that's incredible.
How weird is that?
That's awesome, man.
So,
what's your favorite film?
Of all time?
Yeah, because I asked Matt this one, too. I never asked Chris movie stuff because he likes terrible films.
Chris has got terrible taste in
the
movies.
worst.
Yeah, he
likes bad music and bad movies.
He has no taste in music.
It's unbelievable.
And he likes the weirdest shit in movies. He loves horror movies.
Yeah.
He loves scary movies, which is weird. I'm going to tell you and your fans something right now.
Yeah.
He was the scaredest little kid on the face of the fucking planet. You couldn't even show him a picture of Freddy Krueger without him shitting his pants.
Oh.
Watch him now talk about, because I hate scary movies. I never go to scary movies.
Yeah. I love The Exorcist.
Yeah, The Exorcist is where it ends for me.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
It's so scary, right?
But like the horror movies today, like Saw and all those paranormal.
I don't even see that shit.
I won't go because I don't like being scared. I don't want to know about it. But you're right, Chris, forget it. And Matt and I are in arguments all the time. Matt and I talk about movies all day long.
Yeah. Because Matt loves Casino and I hate it. And you and I hate it.
And Matt is actually wrong about Casino.
He is. And I'm glad you're saying this. It's great. He's
completely wrong about Casino. And he's going to give us both shit when he hears this. But Casino is certainly a great movie. But you cannot put it in the league of Goodfellas. It's not good. Goodfellas is a far superior movie to Casino.
And you can't put it in any category above Raging Bull to me.
No.
Because that is the best film that he made.
Yeah.
And it's,
well, you could argue. To me, you could argue Raging Bull, and you could argue Goodfellas.
Right.
You could argue a lot of Scorsese movies. Casino is better than most people's movies, no matter how many movies they made. But in the canon of Scorsese, it is not his best movie.
Yeah.
And to Matt, it's the best movie. And Matt, God bless him, he'll watch a movie 3 or 4 times. In a row.
Me too. Oh yeah. Oh, in a row.
In
yeah.
a
Like
row.
he and I go to. We just saw
The Master. You guys went to see The
just
Master?
Saw The Master.
Twice.
Yeah. Yeah. But to me, it's he likes great films. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So I give him that. He loves Casino, and I like to tweet once in a while, like "fuck Casino," just to get him going. He gets lit up on it.
I know he gets mad.
It's so dumb. But I mean, to me, you've got The Godfather 1 and 2. I count as one film.
Right.
And then I count Raging Bull, and 3 is Jaws. And Jaws was always sometimes up on 1 because what Jaws did to me was get me into films and Dick Xanax. Well, I thought it was the most. It's not about the shark to me. It's about the 3 dudes on the boat.
Well, the filmmaking in Jaws is astounding.
It's
a great movie.
It's
There's
unbelievable.
No question about it. But the movie I always go back to as the movie.
Yeah.
Above all movies is Citizen Kane.
Oh yeah.
There was a period in my life where I watched Citizen Kane once a month.
You think that's an old people's movie, like See's Candy?
Like you bit on See's
Yeah.
Candy. No, here's what I thought maybe.
Yeah.
But when how many years ago? It was maybe 15 years ago. So Chris was a teenager, Matt was a kid. Citizen Kane got re-released.
Yep.
And because it got re-released around the time of my birthday, I said, my birthday present, I'm taking you guys to the theater to see Citizen Kane.
Hey, Chris, like, no!
No, that was before Chris was an asshole about movies. I was still able to influence him that he had to do it because his dad said so.
Yeah.
So I take the 2 of them to Citizen Kane, and what I figure is they're going to be bored to shit. Mm-hmm. I figure that's what's going to happen. And I figure that afterwards we're going to have this great conversation about why they're wrong and why I'm right, and I'm going to teach them something. Because, by the way, they were raised that way. I would watch movies, I would watch television shows, and I would talk to them about what it meant, what it was about. Here's what look at that. Here's why. I just love that. And the fact that Chris used to ask me to watch Charlie Chaplin when he was just a kid.
Wow.
Can we watch that Modern Times movie, Dad? I mean, he just loved, which is interesting that he should become a comic. I remember watching a Jerry Lewis movie once, and Chris walking in the room, and he was like 6, 5, 7, something like that. He said, "Who's that, Dad?" I said, "It's Jerry Lewis." And Jerry Lewis was doing some shticky, funny stuff, right?
Right.
And he says, "Does he get paid for that?" And I said, "Yeah, Chris, he gets paid a lot of money." And I often wonder if that was an influence.
Yeah.
But anyway, I took him to see Citizen Kane. And after the movie's over, I was prepared for this onslaught of shit about, how wrong I was. They loved it.
Yeah.
They loved it because it's
I did
classic.
too.
It's a classic, great movie. Now, you could argue anything you want to argue about it, but when you talk about great films and film making, I go to that movie for inspiration because there's great filmmaking, there's great storytelling, there's great ideas at play in the way scenes are put together and the way the whole movie.
And it was his
constructed.
first film.
Yeah, and it was his first film. But I go to Citizen Kane always, but I'd have to put Nashville in there.
Right.
I'd have to put and I'd have to put the Godfather movies, and I'd have to put Goodfellas.
What about
Goodfellas is a
Apocalypse
movie
Now?
Apocalypse Now is a great movie, but it doesn't have the appeal to me that the others that we're talking about have. And I think it's because it's so poetic and so lyrical and so interesting on a higher level than most movies. But I don't put it as one of my top 3. It's certainly one of the greatest movies ever made. I'm not going to even argue that.
Oh, it's awesome.
Better than Casino.
Oh God. What do you think, Coppola or Scorsese? Who do you like better?
Oh, you can't really. I don't like doing that. You can't really do better. I think that I'm probably more drawn to Scorsese
because of New York and stuff.
Well, just because of
Body of work?
Maybe it's that. But when you look at things like King of Comedy, and you look at the edginess that Scorsese just still brings to his movies at continually from the time he's a young man to now. Coppola's groundbreaking filmmaker.
Yeah,
no question about it. But I'm probably more often drawn to watch any one of a number of Scorsese movies as much as I am The Godfather.
Right, right. Yeah.
I don't feel the same about. I mean, I watched The Conversation the other day.
Yeah,
because I hadn't seen it in a while. Brilliant movie, just a brilliant movie. And I do that a lot. I'll be thinking of something and say, "Geez, I haven't seen that in a while," and I'll have to watch it. Yeah,
Coppola to me is kind of like he's like the Stones. Like he should have never made movies again. You know what I mean? Like the Stones keep making a record every 10 years, and you're like, no, man. Because to me, he's so awesome in this era. Like the Stones, the same thing. Like 69 to 81, the Stones were God. There's nothing better. And then after, he just made those films in the last 5 years or whatever, and it's just like,
but
what?
You have to appreciate him as an artist because he made these movies that he wanted to make of a personal nature,
right?
And it kind of reminds me of Cassavetes, who's another huge. I mean, I'd have to put Husbands on that list, by the way. A little-known movie that most people haven't seen.
I haven't seen it.
And that will divide anyone. People will either love it or absolutely hate it. I went to see it in the theater when it was released, and I think it was released in 1970. And I was on a date with Ellie, and we went with this other couple, and we walked out, and both guys loved the movie, and both women hated it. and it's a movie that people really don't like, and it's a movie that I love, and it gives me great pleasure that years later, without me talking about it, both Chris and Matt discovered the movie. And
wow.
And it's their favorite.
Is that right?
Yeah. They just, and we've gone to see it in the theater together.
Well, you guys are the same dude. It's so amazing. You guys are. I look at you and I just go, oh, this is Chris right here. And then there's some Matt in there. And then your distant brother would be Mark Maron. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Sometimes I look at you and I go, this is like Maron's older brother.
That's so funny.
But then I met your brothers in New York last week, and right away I go, oh, of course, these are your brothers. I'm going to get out of your hair, but before I do, one last thing. You're going to do a show with Robin Williams, a sitcom?
Yeah, it's being set up now at CBS. It's
and what's my part on that?
I don't have the script yet.
I play the weird neighbor or something?
You have to play the weird neighbor, yeah. You have to play the weird neighbor, right?
This is pretty incredible. When I grew up, Robin Williams, I grew up in San Francisco. Robin Williams is like a staple there. I loved Mork and Mindy.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a god. I mean, he's a comedy god. I mean, there's no
just amazing. I saw Robin Williams about 6 months ago just pop in at the Improv Lab, and he wasn't even supposed to go on. He just went up there. He was doing wacky shit.
He did I'm involved in the Brady campaign for gun control.
Right.
I'm on the board, and at one of the benefits honoring David Kelly, in fact, for his work, because David and I are in agreement, and we do a lot of stuff where he writes a lot of stuff that supports gun control.
Now, you guys are not for guns, like gun control, to make guns illegal, or what is it?
Not illegal, but gun control laws. I mean, there's no way you should be able to buy an AK-47.
Yeah, that's just stupid shit.
I mean, everybody has the right to bear arms, and nobody's against that. The Brady campaign's not against that.
Yeah, home protection.
But you shouldn't be able to go online and buy
a machine gun,
100-round clip, and an automatic or semi-automatic weapon. There's no need for that if you're not in the military. So that's disturbing. So that's kind of where we'd like to see better laws with regard to that.
Any website for that?
There was an assault ban. There was an assault weapons ban that was passed under Clinton that expired under Bush, and it's still expired. And when it was in existence, it prevented a lot of these tragedies like happened in Colorado.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that after an event like that, things get political again, but it's just common sense to me. So at any rate, yeah, the Brady Center has a website, the Brady Campaign for Gun Control. Just Google it. But at any rate, Robin Williams was at this benefit. And I know, you watched a guy just get up there because he was the entertainment. And he specifically targeted the issue and was hilarious.
Yeah.
For like an hour, and he was just making shit up.
Yeah.
There's nobody like that. It's just really,
and
he's
what's
one of a kind.
The show's going to be a sitcom?
It's actually a very interesting show about advertising. So I get back to my original world. David Kelly plopped this idea on me, and I thought, man, if we can make this the right way, it's breakthrough, because there's a guy at Leo Burnett in Chicago, and he had an idea to try to tell to try to make a television show about the absurdity of advertising, what goes on behind the scenes. Now, the difficulty there is always, what are the products? You know, you're going to talk about, Schmegel beer or whatever. But this guy has real clients, like McDonald's, and he's gone to them, and he's asked them to be involved, and they're letting us use.
So you can use actual real products,
real names, and so this is very absurd.
Even if you're clowning them.
Yeah, but we promise not to denigrate the product,
right,
but make fun of the product.
It's like an ultimate product placement for him.
It kind of is. So it Robin Williams plays the legendary leader of this little ad agency, and he has this small agency with a group of people that he's trying to turn over to his daughter. So in some way, it's a father-daughter story. And in some ways, it's a real story about what goes on in America about advertising. And it's just funny as hell. No,
that's great. And what are you going to do? Shooting the pilot?
Yeah, probably. All as you can imagine, getting Robin Williams back to television is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was all over online.
And so all of that is being put together now. I don't have a schedule yet. I don't know. Right now I'm concentrating on Monday mornings, which finishes shooting in December.
And when does that come out?
That airs in February 2013. The week of February 4th, I think. I'm not sure what night it's on.
Oh, that's my birthday, February 3rd.
Well, we'll have a party.
There we go.
We'll watch my show.
We'll watch your show. All right, so you have a Twitter, @BillDelia.
@BillDelia.
Now, I've had the trifecta. I've had Matt on, Chris on. Actually, I had Chris on in a funky way. And then you.
I thought you had Chris on.
I did, but he was on with, we had a kind of a fictional character on too. And then Chris was supposed to do my show in New York, and of course we just didn't do that.
Oh, yeah.
But he will be on again.
Well, you were dogged in your determination to get all three of us. So,
I know.
Man, you came to my house.
I know. I feel like an asshole. I do feel like an asshole.
No,
like, come on, do it.
I was like, Dean, I can't do it, but if you come to my house, I'm coming to your house. All right.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I really wanted to have you on, not just because you're Chris's dad, but like, I mean, you're in the biz, man, which is awesome.
I'm way inside.
You're way in it, man.
I'm in it.
I just spotted a movie over there. Oh, it was Moulin Rouge. I thought it was Mulholland Drive.
I got that one too somewhere.
Yeah, that's such a great film. All right, well, I'm going to get out of here before I split here. There's some cool stuff in the office here. You do have a cool old photo of Charlie Chaplin.
And Groucho.
And Groucho.
Groucho whispering in Charlie's ear, and that photo was taken by and given to me by Candace Bergen.
So cool, man. Yeah. What's your favorite thing in this office before I leave? You got an Emmy?
Right there.
Oh, who painted that?
Ellie commissioned somebody to paint a picture of Chris and Matt, and that's already, that's back in 2004. That's what they looked like.
Now, they're both wearing turtlenecks there. What is that about?
It was a photo. Ellie used to force him to take a Christmas picture. So it was a picture. He painted it off a picture. That's my favorite thing. No, I don't have an Emmy, by the way. I'm
Emmy?
I'm 0 for 8.
Are you kidding?
8 nominations, no wins.
Wow, you're kind of like the Susan Lucci of
0 for 8. I got a couple of Peabody Awards, there's 2 things there from the
well, I think you're going to get one this time.
Television Academy. I got David and I both got those 2 awards from the Emmy Academy for creating television with a conscience. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
I used to have a crush on that Ally McBeal.
Yeah, who didn't?
Yeah. Now she's with Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Huh?
Ally McBeal is married to Indiana Jones. That's
Yeah. Who would have thought they would have met?
I was there when they met. They met at the Golden Globes.
Is that right?
Yeah, she
Wow.
spilled a drink on him.
Are you kidding?
I think that's how it happened.
That's a good pickup. I'm going to try that, to spill drinks on chicks.
Try that with a movie star.
I love you, man. Thanks for having me at your house.
Thank you, man. It was a blast.
And follow you on Twitter. Watch the show Monday mornings.
Next February 2013, we'll be on the air 10 episodes. I think you're going to love it. And yeah, follow me on Twitter.
And
I'm following you.
Yeah, and then also Matt D'Elia's movie American Animal.
American Animal is on Netflix and on DVD.
And Whitney's going to start up next week, I think.
Whitney goes on the air November 14th.
Yeah.
That's my industry. There's my industry right there.
And rest in peace, Wonder Woman. I wish that came
Me
out.
and the boys. Well, Wonder Woman was a great project that just, for whatever reason, they didn't pick it up. But there's a lot of really great films that didn't get picked up. That was one of them.
Wonder Woman was great. I mean, he closed down Hollywood Boulevard.
That was directed by Jeffrey Reiner. He did a great job with that.
There you go. Thank you, man.
Hey, thank you.
And I'll see you soon at Comedy Store.
I'll be at the club.
Yeah.
I'll be in the booth.
Right there he is, Bill D'Elia. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. And also tell everybody about this podcast. Retweet it, whatever you got to do. Follow me on iTunes. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week. See ya.